call the member for McPherson.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to support this motion moved by the member for Menzies. I do so, however, with a profound sense of frustration. While the words contained in the motion are welcome, the reality is that the action it gestures towards has come far too late. For years, the Coalition has urged the government to take stronger, clearer and more decisive action against the Iranian regime, both for its brutal repression of its people and for its malign activities beyond its borders. The question before us is not whether action is justified. That's never been in doubt. The real question is why the government waited so long. The human rights situation in Iran has been dire for years, not months. We've witnessed violent crackdowns on peaceful protesters, arbitrary arrests and executions, and the systematic oppression of women and girls. We've seen communication blackouts imposed to conceal the scale of violence from the world. Actions repeatedly documented by international partners and human rights organisations. These are not sudden developments. They're the predictable behaviour of a regime that has repeatedly demonstrated its contempt for basic human dignity and the rule of law. Let me also state clearly, the Iranian regime is not a friend of Australia, but the Iranian people are. Australia has long stood in solidarity with the Iranian people, particularly the courageous women and girls who continue to demand equality and freedom, despite grave personal risk. Our disagreement is not with a civilisation or a culture, but with the actions of a government that has consistently chosen repression over reform. Yet for too long, this government hesitated, issuing statements while abuses continued, and delaying decisive action at precisely the moment leadership was required. Even more concerning is that Iran's malign influence has not stopped at its borders. Australian authorities have taken serious steps after intelligence linked Iranian state actors, including the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, to activities that were designed to intimidate communities and even direct attacks on Australian soil. Members of the Iranian-Australian community have also reported intimidation, surveillance and threats extending beyond Iran's borders. They were not asking for rhetoric. They were asking for protection, for clarity and for leadership. Too often they were met instead with delay. It's precisely because events in Iran do affect Australia that a strong and principled stance matters. Stability in the Middle East is directly tied to the security of global shipping routes and energy markets upon which Australia's economy relies. When regimes engage in destabilising conduct, whether through proxy activity, interference abroad or repression at home, it's not a distant issue. It has real implications for Australia's national security, our economic interests and the safety of Australians here and overseas. The government now points to sanctions and diplomatic measures as evidence of resolve. But let us be clear, these actions were not proactive. They were reactive. The Coalition has consistently called for stronger and earlier sanctions, decisive action against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and a tougher stance on Iranians and Iranian officials complicit in repression and terrorism. It should not have taken sustained pressure from the opposition, from civil society and from diaspora communities for this government to finally act. Leadership means acting before atrocities escalate, not after international outrage becomes impossible to ignore. The Coalition's position has been clear and consistent. We stand with the people of Iran. We stand with women and girls who are courageously resisting oppression. And we believe Australia must take a firm, principled stance against regimes that brutalise their own people and seek to undermine democratic societies abroad. We'll continue to call for immediate accountability for human rights abuses, stronger protections for diaspora communities here in Australia, and early decisive action against hostile foreign influence. Deputy Speaker, this motion is necessary, but it should not be mistaken for leadership. Leadership requires courage, speed and moral clarity. The Australian people and the Iranian people deserve that leadership much sooner. The Coalition will continue to hold this government to account until words are consistently matched by action.